I built this company from a kitchen table with an overheating laptop and a vision everyone called premature. But I stepped away for 3 years, and on the morning I walked back in, a woman I had never met, in a blazer that cost more than our first quarterly budget, looked me up and down in the lobby and told me I was yesterday's news. Then she fired me. She had absolutely no idea who I was. That was her only mistake, but it was a significant one. But before we continue, please make sure to like, subscribe, and kindly drop a comment on the location from where you're watching. My name is Valerie Kane, and the lobby of Kane Consulting looked exactly as I had designed it. Clean lines and good light. The founding date etched in brushed steel above the elevator bank. My idea. All over Ethan's objection that it was too sentimental. Everything that was good about this place had my fingerprints on it. I was thinking about that when she walked out of the elevator. Impeccably put together, blazer tailored within an inch of its life. The kind of entrance that requires either genuine authority or a complete absence of self-doubt, and this woman had at least one of those in abundance. She looked at me. I looked at her. "Who are you?" she said. Not "good morning," not "can I help you," just "who are you?" with the cadence of someone who considers the lobby their territory and me an uninvited element. "Valerie Kane," I said. Something crossed her face. A flicker of processing, quickly managed. "Sabrina Kane," she said. "I head the Strategic Restructuring Initiative." She looked me over, slowly, and deliberately, the kind of look designed to be felt. "Valerie, right." She tilted her head. "I've heard the name. You were here in the early days, weren't you? The founding era?" "Something like that," I said. "We've moved significantly past the founding era." She said it pleasantly, warmly even, the warmth of a scalpel. "The company has evolved, the needs have evolved. I'm sure what you contributed was valuable, at the time." The lobby was quiet. The receptionist had stopped typing. "Actually," she continued, "your timing is interesting. We've been doing a complete organizational review, every role, every position." She smiled. "I'm afraid yours has been identified for elimination." She paused, letting it settle. "You're fired," she said, "effective immediately. And security can help you with anything you need." I looked at her. "On whose authority?" I said. "Mine," she said. "I head strategic." "The restructuring initiative," I said. "Yes, and the board approved this specific elimination?" "The board will be updated at the quarterly." "So that's a no," I said. Her smile thinned. "This is a structural decision. It doesn't require individual board sign-off for every legacy position that's past its usefulness." Legacy position, past its usefulness. I heard someone near the reception desk exhale. I kept my face entirely still. "You know what the problem with legacy," Sabrina added, straightening her blazer, "is that it's just a polite word for irrelevant. We need people who are building the future, not people who are..." She gestured vaguely at me, "attached to the past." The lobby was completely silent. I looked at her. Then I said, "I'd like to go up now. What floor is the executive suite on?" She blinked. "You're not... I just told you..." "It was always the 7th, I said. "I'm assuming it's still the 7th. I walked to the elevator. I pressed 7. As the doors closed, I heard her say to the receptionist, not bothering to lower her voice, "Who did she think she was?" The elevator doors shut. I looked at my reflection in the steel. Legacy, I thought. Irrelevant, past your usefulness. 22 years. I breathed through it, slow and deliberate. Then something in me went very, very quiet. And quiet, for me, is where the dangerous thinking happens. Let me tell you about Kane Consulting, the real version. 22 years ago, I was 31, with a financial strategy background and a vision everyone called premature. I pitched it to Ethan Kane, 53, successful exit behind him, the specific confidence of a man who has been right before and considers it a permanent condition. He liked the idea. He didn't initially like the idea of me running it. "You'd be better as a senior advisor," he said. "The leadership role should probably be yours," I said. I agreed to it, under specific conditions. My lawyer, Frances, professionally paranoid her words, admiringly meant, spent 3 weeks on the shareholder agreement. What emerged was precise, layered, and built for a future I hoped wouldn't happen. I owned 49%, Ethan owned 35%, 16% sat in a trust structure that, under certain trigger conditions, reverted to my direct control. One trigger, the improper removal of a protected corporate officer without board ratification. Frances had called it the nuclear option. I had called it insurance. What I didn't put in the documents What lived only in the space between Ethan and me, in the 22 years of building something together, was everything else. Ethan and I had never been romantic. I want to be honest about that because it would be easier and tidier to say we had. The truth was more complicated. There was something between us that was real. A closeness that comes from building something together, from nothing, from the particular intimacy of shared risk and shared vision and thousands of hours in the same rooms making the same decisions. On something that was not love in the traditional sense, but was not nothing either. I had sacrificed things for this company, relationships that couldn't survive my hours, a personal life that kept getting deferred to the next quarter, and then the next. A version of myself that existed outside of these walls and that I kept meaning to return to. When Ethan's son, Daniel, joined the company, and Ethan began slowly, unconsciously, recentering everything around family, I had felt it as a specific kind of loss, not of the company, of the thing we had been to each other, the partnership. I stepped back 3 years ago. Not fired, I stepped back. For personal reasons that were real, and also because staying was becoming a different kind of painful than I'd anticipated. But I did not leave. My shares remained. Francis remained on retainer. And I read every board minute. And when Sabrina's restructuring initiative appeared 6 months ago, I read those minutes with the attention of someone who knows exactly what she's looking at. The initiative had one stated goal, efficiency, and one unstated one, consolidate control around the Kane family in a way that would make the shareholder structure impossible to challenge. It required erasing me. And on the morning she tried, in the lobby in front of the receptionist and 2 junior staff who had gone very still, legacy, irrelevant, past your usefulness. She had activated something she did not know existed. Iris Cole was waiting when the elevator opened, my assistant for 4 years before I stepped back. 41 years old, methodical, possessed of a sense of humor so dry it occasionally evaporated before arrival. When she had survived the transition to Sabrina's regime by being so quietly competent that removing her would have cost more than keeping her, she looked at me the way she had always looked at me, like she had been expecting me, because she had been. "Ms. Kane," she said. "Iris, how are things?" "Interesting," she said, in the tone she used when things were considerably more than interesting. "Ms. Sabrina Kane has been in the building 6 months. In that time, 4 restructurings, 2 rebranding consultations." 2? "The first rebrand was itself rebranded," she said without inflection. "We are currently operating under a framework called synergistic elevation, which I understand to mean nothing," I said. "My read as well. The company values have also been updated." A small pause. "Why, they now include bespokeness." That's not a word. I raised that concern. I was told I was being resistant to transformational language. "Of course you were." "Also," Iris said, "she fired you this morning." "In the lobby." "Before you reached the elevator?" "Yes." "While calling you a legacy position past its usefulness. Among other things." Iris was quiet for a moment. "Has the legal alert gone through?" I said. "Francis called 9 minutes ago. Trigger notification sent to all board members. Mr. Blake has requested an emergency meeting." 3 o'clock? "Boardroom reserved. Coffee prepared. The good kind." A pause. "I also took the liberty of placing name cards." "Where did you put Sabrina?" "The far end," Iris said. It was the only remaining seat, alphabetically." I looked at her. "Iris," I said. "Ms. Kane," she said serenely, and led me to the conference room. The morning passed in the way of a day when you are very busy and very still simultaneously. At 10 o'clock, Iris reported that Sabrina had held an all-hands to announce the restructuring. She had described my role as a legacy position no longer aligned with the company's forward trajectory. She had, by multiple accounts, smiled while saying it. The 43 attendees had exchanged looks throughout. Daniel had not spoken. At 11:15, Daniel knocked on the conference room door. He came in, sat across from me, had the grace to look like a man who has recently understood something he wishes he'd understood earlier. "I didn't know she was going to do the all hands," he said. "The timeline I didn't authorize." "Daniel." He stopped. "You once told me," I said, "in your first year here, that you wanted to learn how this company actually worked, not the surface of it, the structure, how it was built to last." He was very still. "Do you remember what I told you?" "You said you'd teach me," he said quietly. "Yes." And then things shifted, and I stepped back before I could. I looked at him. "Is this the company you want to run?" He met my eyes. "No," he said. "Honest. Simple." "Then be in the boardroom at 3, I said, "and listen." He left. At 1 o'clock, Sabrina came in without knocking. She looked at me. at the document spread across the table, at the coffee, at my complete composure, and her expression did something fast and revealing. "I was told you were still in the building," she said. "I am. Your position has been eliminated, effective this morning." "You mentioned," I said. She came in, sat, shifted into de-escalation mode. I watched her find the gear and engage it. "I think we got off on the wrong foot," she said. "I wasn't fully briefed on your history with the company, your relationship with Ethan." "My history is fairly well documented," I said. "Right, of course." A recalibration. Obviously, a decision of this nature should have involved more. The process could have been better. "Sabrina," I said. She stopped. "I appreciate the pivot, but I'd save your energy for 3 o'clock. Something shifted in her face. What's at 3 o'clock? She said. "Everything," I said pleasantly. She left. He came at 2. The door opened the way it always had. Ethan didn't knock. Hadn't knocked in 40 years of walking into rooms he considered his. He stood in the doorway and looked at me, and I looked at him, and 22 years passed between us in the space of about 3 seconds. He was older, more settled. Something in him that had always been restless had quieted, and I could not tell whether that was peace or defeat. "Valerie," he said. "Ethan." He came in, stood at the window, the north-facing window, which he had once called an unnecessarily specific requirement, and which now caught the afternoon light exactly as I had planned. "You're really going to do this," he said. "I'm going to attend a board meeting." "Don't be oblique. 22 years. I looked at him. 22 years, I agreed, during which I built the governance structure of this company specifically because I knew that loyalty and family love are not the same as good governance, and I was right. "She didn't know who you were." "No," I said. "She called me a legacy position past its usefulness, in the lobby, in front of staff." A pause. "I'll be honest with you, Ethan, that's not the part that surprised me. The part that surprised me was that you weren't on the 6th floor when it happened, that you didn't know the all hands was occurring." He closed his eyes briefly. "She moves fast," he said. "She does. And you let her, because Daniel loves her, and you want Daniel to be happy. And wanting your son to be happy is not a flaw." I stood. "But it cost you the company, or it was about to." "Was," he said. "Was," I confirmed. He looked at the window. "I thought," he said, "when you stepped back, I thought you were done. I thought—" He stopped. "I should have called you more. These 3 years. I should have—" "Yes," I said, simply. He looked at me. In the space between us was everything that had never been said in 22 years. All the closeness that wasn't romance and wasn't nothing. All the partnership that had slowly become something else, and neither of us had known how to name it before it had changed. "Frances really was thorough," he said finally. She really was. I didn't think you'd ever use it. I hoped I wouldn't. But you prepared it anyway." "I prepared it because I knew this company was worth protecting," I said, "even from the people who loved it." He nodded. 3 o'clock, he said. 3 o'clock, I confirmed. The boardroom filled from 2:55. I was already there. Howard Blake arrived first. 5 minutes early, as always. Howard believed punctuality was the minimum standard of respect. He saw me at the head of the table. "Valerie?" "Howard." "I had a feeling," he said, sitting, when the trigger notification came through, that today was going to be memorable. "I appreciate your patience," I said. "I appreciate yours," he said. "Yet 3 years is a long time to wait." "I wasn't waiting," I said. "I was watching." The others came in, Ethan, Daniel, the finance director, 2 independent directors. At 3:01, Sabrina walked in, still impeccably dressed. Whatever was happening internally, none of it had reached the blazer. She looked at the table. She looked at the name cards. She looked at me, at the head of it, in the seat that had always been mine, even when it hadn't been mine by title. The look lasted 4 seconds. Then she sat at the far end. "Let's begin," I said. The first section was ownership. I had made it navigable without a law degree. Frances said it was impossible, I insisted. We compromised. 49%, me, 35, Ethan, 16, trust structure, currently under trigger conditions, were reverted to my direct control. Effective position, 65%. The room absorbed this. Howard showed nothing. He had known. Ethan showed the face of a man experiencing something he'd understood intellectually and was now experiencing in full. Daniel showed the face of someone doing arithmetic they wished they'd done 6 months ago. And Sabrina went very still. Not the controlled stillness of the lobby. Something different. The stillness of a person whose entire operational picture has just been revised without warning. The trigger, I said, was activated at 9:07 this morning, Section 14 D of the shareholder agreement, the improper removal of a protected corporate officer without board ratification. This is a technicality, Sabrina said. Her voice was controlled. Barely. It is a provision, I said, written into the founding documents of this company. A technicality is an inconvenience. A provision is a structure. Nobody told me. I know, I said. That's actually the central problem. The second section was governance. 6 months of decisions made without full board consultation. A restructuring presented as approved when it had been ratified only by 3 Kane family members, not a quorum for decisions of this type. 3 role eliminations processed without HR compliance. 2 individuals already in contact with legal counsel. The rebranding. The synergistic elevation framework. The values update, including bespokeness. Howard Blake made a sound that was not quite a cough. Ethan pressed 2 fingers to his forehead. Sabrina was white. And, I said, well, I want to address something directly. I looked at the table, not at Sabrina, at the table. This morning, in the lobby of this company, a member of this organization used the words legacy, irrelevant, and past your usefulness to describe a founding officer of Kane Consulting, in front of staff, without board authority, without knowledge of who she was speaking to. The room was completely silent. That is not, I said, a governance failure. That is a culture failure. And it tells me more about what has been happening in this building for 6 months than any board minute. Nobody spoke. The third section, I said, is a proposal. 2 options, I said. Option 1, revised governance. I returned to an active executive role. Board oversight reinstated and strengthened. Strategic initiatives reviewed. Were affected roles audited. Everyone at this table remains involved, with adjusted responsibilities. Option 2, the remaining shareholders buy my position. I clicked to the last slide. The number was on the screen. The silence that followed had a specific quality. The silence of a room that has just seen a number large enough to change the shape of the conversation. That's, Sabrina started. Current market valuation, calculated at the rate specified in the shareholder agreement for forced buyouts, I said, plus the Clause 14C penalty provision, plus 3 years of deferred dividends. Francis was very thorough. That number is not achievable without significant external financing, I said. Correct. She stared at me. You designed it that way, she said. I designed the clause to make improper removal genuinely costly, I said. Yes. This whole thing, she said, and now the composure was cracking, not breaking, but cracking, something real underneath it, was a trap. It was a provision, I said. You activated it. I didn't know. No, I said, you didn't. Because you made a decision, in a lobby in under 60 seconds, to eliminate someone you knew nothing about, based entirely on an assumption about what she represented. I looked at her directly for the first time in this meeting. You called me a legacy position. You called me irrelevant. You stood in a lobby I designed and told me the company had moved past people like me. The room was absolutely still. I had been in the building for approximately 4 minutes, I said. Somewhere. I didn't look to see who. Someone exhaled. I'd suggest, Howard said into the silence, a short recess for the board to discuss. Of course, I said. I'll be in the conference room on 7. The board reconvened at 5. In the hour of recess, Daniel had come to the conference room. He had told me Ethan would accept option 1. He had told me what he actually wanted from this company. The client side, the relationship work, the role he was built for rather than the one he'd been miscast in. He had told me he was sorry. For which part? I asked. For the all hands, he said. For 6 months of not saying what I could see. For not. He stopped. She's good at making you think the thing she's doing is the only sensible thing to do. I let her do that. I know, I said. We'll fix it. He left. I sat alone in the north-facing conference room and let myself feel, for a few minutes, the full weight of the day. The lobby. Legacy. Irrelevant. Past your usefulness. Said in front of people who had heard it, who had looked away, who had done the calculation that rooms full of people do when power is being performed. It had hurt. I want to say that clearly because I had spent the entire day not saying it. It had hurt in the specific cold way of a wound that doesn't bleed immediately. The kind you discover later when the adrenaline has cleared and you are sitting in a quiet room with the north-facing windows and the distance to really feel it. 22 years. And she had looked at me and seen, past your usefulness. I breathed through it. Then I went back to the boardroom. Option 1, Howard said, unanimously. Agreed. The terms were clean. Ethan to a founding advisory role, Daniel to business development. The affected positions reviewed immediately, with synergistic elevation discontinued, effective immediately. And the strategic restructuring initiative, Howard said, looking at his notes. The initiative is, he paused, concluded. Effective immediately, I said. I looked at Sabrina. She was looking at the table. The corner office, I said. She looked up. By end of day tomorrow, I said. She held my gaze for a moment. Something in her face, not warm, not soft, but something honest. The look of a person who has run a plan well and watched it fail at the foundation and is intelligent enough to understand why. I'll clear it tonight, she said. She stood. And then, and I will remember this for a long time. She looked at the table, at the room, at Ethan, who wasn't looking at her, at Daniel, who was. I would have learned, she said quietly, not to anyone in particular. To the room. If someone had told me who she was, I would have... I know, I said. She looked at me. That's the part that should have mattered, I said. Not who I was, what you chose to do before you knew. She held my gaze. Then she walked to the door. Howard's assistant opened it from the outside, and in the corridor, because this building had good acoustics because I had designed it that way, the staff who had heard the all hands that morning, who had sat through legacy and irrelevant and past your usefulness, were returning from the end of day. Sabrina walked out into the corridor. Several people looked up. No one spoke. But the looking, the collective, quiet, unmistakable looking, said everything that needed to be said. She walked to the elevator. She pressed the button. She waited. The doors opened. She stepped in. And as they closed, I heard her say something. Not to anyone, just to the diminishing space of the elevator. Something very quiet that I will not repeat here, because it was, I thought, probably the most honest thing she had said all day. The doors shut. The corridor exhaled. Howard appeared at my elbow. The north-facing windows, he said. Were they really necessary? Yes, I said. He said in the tone of a man who believes you but is going to let you know he finds it slightly excessive. I almost smiled. Good night, Howard, I said. Good night, Valerie, he said. Welcome back. I moved into the corner office on a Wednesday. The north-facing light was exactly right. The placard read, V. Kane. No title. The name was sufficient. Iris had reorganized my files in 3 years of absence, every document in its correct place. And her annotations in the margins of the board minutes were, occasionally, extremely candid. Next to one of Sabrina's restructuring claims she had written, "This did not survive contact with reality." I showed it to Howard at our first working meeting. He read it, looked at me. "Give that woman a raise," he said. "Already done," I said. Ethan came by on his last official day. He stood in the doorway of the corner office, my doorway, and looked around the room the way a person looks at something they built and are giving back. Frances really was thorough, he said. She really was. I trained you, he said, then softer. I thought I was the one who... He stopped. 22 years ago, I sat across from you and I thought I was the senior partner. You were, I said, and I was. That's what a partnership is. A partnership where you held the nuclear option. A partnership where I prepared for the possibility that we might need it, I said, because I loved this company enough to protect it, even from us. He looked at me. The thing between us that had never been named, that was not romance, but was not nothing, was in the room with us, the way it had always been. I should have called, he said. These 3 years. More than I did. Yes, I said. You should have. Would you have come back sooner? I thought about it. No, I said. I needed to be ready, and the company needed to be... I paused. Ready too. He almost smiled. Almost. Take care of it, he said. That's why I came back, I said. He nodded. He left. I sat in the corner office in the north-facing light, and for the first time in 3 years, I felt the full weight of the thing settle back into its correct position. Not triumph, not relief, something quieter and more permanent. Home. The company recovered in 6 months, not dramatically. Real recovery doesn't work dramatically. It works the way good architecture works. You fix the foundation, and everything above it stabilizes. The governance structure Frances drafted was clean. The affected roles were reinstated or properly closed. Daniel's client work turned out to be genuinely excellent. Freed from the role he'd been miscast in, his real ability had room. Sabrina started something of her own, a boutique consultancy, small and precise, with the specific energy of someone building from scratch rather than stepping into someone else's structure. I heard she was good at it. I had known she would be. She had, I thought, needed to be in a room she had built. She had just chosen the wrong room to start in. Iris knocked on my door on the 6-month anniversary. Q2 results. She placed the report on my desk. They're good. They are, I said. The lobby receptionist also wanted me to tell you something. The new one? The original one. From your first morning back. A pause. He wanted to apologize for not recognizing you immediately. He did his job correctly, I said. He should be told that. I told him. She paused. He said he watched the security footage of the lobby, of the morning. Did he? He said, and I'm quoting, "She didn't even blink." I looked at the Q2 report. I blinked later, I said, in private. As one does, Iris said. As one does. She turned to go. Iris, I said, Ms. Kane, thank you. And for 3 years of keeping things ready. She was quiet for a moment. You were always going to come back, she said. I just made sure the lights were on. She closed the door. I looked at the north-facing windows, at the founding date in brushed steel, just visible through the glass of my office door, at the company that had my fingerprints on every good thing in it. Legacy, Sabrina had called me, irrelevant, past your usefulness. I thought about that for a moment. Then I opened the Q2 report. Then I got back to work. There is a kind of power that does not announce itself. It doesn't stand in lobbies and make speeches. It doesn't need to. It has already been in the building. It is written into the walls, into the documents, into the provisions that sit quietly in shareholder agreements, waiting, patient. For the moment when someone decides that the architect is obsolete, the architect is never obsolete. The architect designed the trap. They called me legacy. They called me irrelevant. They said I was past my usefulness. And then they pressed the button I had been waiting 22 years for someone to press. And I was already at the head of the table. I was already home. They thought they could erase me, but I was written into everything. The structure, the provisions, the clause no one read until it was too late. You cannot erase the architect. You can only hope she's merciful. If you like this story, please support us by subscribing and kindly drop a comment on the location from where you're watching. Thank you.